Annie, you've been on the Registrar of Voters Election Advisory Committee. So you're going to tell us all about, we've been hearing about from various places how there's a lot of concern out there about this election and its integrity, right, and how we're going to make sure that all those votes are counted correctly. So what's happening in Marin County?
I wanted to tell the story of when Michael Smith was elected and became the Registrar of Voters. He'd never actually watched an election behind the scenes. And he went on election night, he went to behind the scenes, and there were these tables with people scraping the chads off the backs of the punch card ballots. And he thought, oh my God, there were chads everywhere all over the place. And
chads in Marin?
Chads in Marin, right. And something told him that this was the last time that would be an election with that kind of election technology. And indeed, he put together an advisory committee, which I was on, to interview vendors. And in 1999, we changed to a optical scanner. That was before the 2000 election. And the 2000 election brought a kind of focus on elections that I had never seen. It was a tremendous concern. I began to cut out articles and download stuff from the internet, and I put together a little roadshow to go out and talk to people about it. And at one point, I had so much stuff, I decided to weigh the material, and it was 30 pounds. And I've got to stop doing this. As I prepared to do this, I had another example of how complicated and how much information there is. I went to the website of the Federal Election Assistance Commission and learned that they had put out something called the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines Recommendations for the states about how to conduct elections. My computer didn't want to download it for some reason. It was 598 pages.
598 pages.
The table of contents was 48 pages long.
Sounds like our state constitution.
Yes,
right, that's right. Now, so I'm just going to do a run-through of the major issues now that are discussed.
Yeah, what are the issues out there?
Yeah. Start with voting machines. The questions about them can be who makes a voting machine, and who tests them, who certifies it? Is it a public agency that certifies it, or private, as it has been historically? How about the source code of the voting machines? Is it proprietary or is it open? And at the moment, it's illegal in California to have proprietary, but the source code has to be in the Secretary of State's vault, so that if something goes wrong with an election...
Did that answer Diebold's? I remember Diebold didn't want to release
Well, it wasn't just Diebold.
Oh, they all were like...
Right. We selected one that was Windows-based, because the county's IT person said we must not purchase election technology where we can't get at the source code if something goes wrong.
Good idea.
Right, but now it's been resolved by the Secretary of State that it can be proprietary, but she has access to it if she needs it. How about a paper trail? Is that important? Are the machines handicap accessible? How well trained are the poll workers to help voters to use it? And what is the relationship of the vendors of the technology to the election officials? Is it too cozy? The next one is the administration of elections. Are the officials elected or appointed? Are they partisan or nonpartisan? Part of the 2000 election.
I was astonished to learn
I didn't know that registrars were elected.
Right.
That's right. That they had partisan.
In California, if you're the county clerk, you're also have the elections under that. But remember, in Florida, where the Secretary of State was the chairman of the Bush campaign.
Right.
Right. Is there a professional certification for election officials the way there are for doctors, lawyers, plumbers, and even hairdressers? How much money do they have to run a carefully managed campaign? Do they have enough? Do they have enough staff? How transparent is it? Are citizens allowed in to watch behind the scenes about how elections are being conducted? Now, what is being part of this 598 pages are toolkits for officials with checklists, best management practices, and while these are voluntary for states, actually there's quite a lot of pressure on them to adopt them, and now 40 states have adopted these voluntary guidelines, and there's great pressure on the others to follow
Has
suit.
our registrar here in the county, is she pretty well up to date on all
Oh,
this?
very, and I'll get to that in a while. So we're very well off here.
We are.
We're very well protected here in Marin and in California, also compared with other states. What about the issue of eligibility to vote? How do you establish that you're a legal resident? If there's any doubt about whether you're legally registered to vote, can you vote anyway using a provisional ballot? Are you required to show ID before voting? There are some states.
Didn't that pass somewhere in Illinois?
Right.
Or
Yes, I
Indiana?
think Illinois.
But it is it's a question that's facing each of the 50 states. You know, we have a very decentralized way of managing debates.
It's be all very different from state to
Right,
state.
From state
yes.
to state, and even county to county. Our state has an inclusive approach to eligibility to vote.
Right.
You're considered innocent until proven guilty, but in many states it's just the opposite. Are there voter suppression tactics going on? Are voters being harassed? Are voters intersected on the way to the polls and told false information, like if they have outstanding parking tickets, they'll get arrested when they go to vote? Tactics like that. Another issue is opportunities to vote. How many polling places are they? Where are they located? Is there parking? Are they easy to get to? How many booths, voting booths, are there in the polling place? There were stories in the last election of in one county there can be a precinct with only 2 or 3 polling booths inside, and they have to stand in line 5 hours to vote.
Right.
Whereas in the well-to-do communities, there are 12, and they just go in and vote and go home
leave.
again.
Doesn't Oregon have a mail-in voting?
They're
Yes.
100%
100%
mail-on
mail-in.
vote.
Which
That's
Yeah.
right.
addresses some issues but raises new issues, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
So there's
And then another
Yeah.
question about
Sides.
the opportunities. How well are our poll workers trained? Do they give the voters the correct information about their eligibility?
Are all these items in that guideline, that 500-page?
Oh yes, I'm leaving out a lot.
we need several weeks to go over those.
No, but are they guidelines that states are supposed to use, or is it some kind
they
of
may.
law?
I'm
or
saying
what?
no. They may.
They may.
Right.
So,
But
in
you
order
know,
to get
as-
money,
as-
do they have to implement these guidelines?
Well, it's also that there's tremendous citizen pressure to do it, and also elected, people running for office. Well, it's something that is taking place in a gradual way.
This is called evolution.
Right. And early voting is a new thing about in opportunities to vote on October 6th in next week.
Right, we can vote.
We vote. The polls
Yeah.
are open at the Civic Center,
Yeah.
and early voting is also spreading the country. That greatly increases the opportunities there are for people to vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
which is good.
Another one is
Can any registered voter in Marin vote at the Civic Center?
yes.
Okay, they'll have
Yes.
to be within that
No, you go
precinct.
in. You are in effect absentee voting. They treat you as an absentee voter, but you do it while you cast your absentee vote while you're in the
It doesn't get
elections
lost in the
department.
mail.
Annie, we're going to have to stop there.
Oh dear.
Well, I think we're running out of time for this
Yeah,
particular
I thought we
session.
might.